接下来可以就有什么问题的话呢，我们可以根据我们的时间来可以再沟通一下就。
So now we're open to question and answer sessions. If you have any questions, so don't hesitate, and you can raise up your hand and come to the front, and you can have the microphone.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 questions, and the last one is for general knowledge. The first question, in your lecture, you said that at first you wanted to be a doctor, then wanted to be a carpenter, and finally you ended up being a teacher. Now my question is, should we say that in those first 2 professions, there were no happiness in them? That's my first question. The second question, in your presentation you also said that you worked for 30 years without any salary. Now my question is, as you are working as a teacher without any salary, who was taking care of your materialistic needs? And lastly, I think this one is for just general knowledge. I think we can have a better answer from you. My question is, why is Buddhism associated with violent activities like Kung Fu when it is founded on a principle of inner happiness? Why is it so? Thank you.
OK， 第一个问题啊，实际上，当医生，还有当那武将等等，就是这些的话呢，实际上。如果我们教他们，他们也会得到的这种快乐。但是老师呢，他是心灵改变的人。如果木匠呢，就是他是一个技术上，当然我们在这样的地方当木匠啊，当这个其他的一些技术工呢，也很重要啊。所以我们也很想在这些地方，如果有个像寄宿学校的话呢，可能跟当地的这个社会呢，就福祉方面就是有更重要的这个利益。如果你当医生很快乐的，当军人很快乐的，当木匠很快乐的话呢，我不排除就是，不过从我个人而言的话呢，我不愿意当木匠，我是只当老师，当心灵的老师，因为我做木匠的话，我以前做过一些木匠，但是呢，我做的并不是很好，就所以呢，我自己是当心理老师是最快乐的，这是你的第一个问题。
To respond to your first question, I do think it's important for students to become doctors and carpenters and to have different skills in trades. I think it could bring happiness. And I think it's quite necessary to train people to have such skills, to be able to develop in such skills, especially in this country. But I think teachers is this kind of career that could change people's mind, could change people's heart. I know there are people who are very content on being doctors, soldiers, and carpenters, and so on. But I myself, I think personally, I'd choose to become a teacher every time, because I think, especially the teacher to the heart, the teacher to the spirituality. I've done some carpentry, and I wasn't really talented. That's one aspect of it as well. So that's to respond to your first question.
第二个问题呢，我们的物质如果太缺乏的话，确实是很难以维持生活的。但是这个物质呢，实际上是我们人们来开始操控的。尤其是我觉得是我们像这样的地方的话呢，在这里的物质很丰富。可是如果当地的人们没有用自己的智慧和没有自己的用勤劳来运用的话呢，很有可能在别的一些民族和别的一些国家来就慢慢去运用。所以第二个问题的回答呢，我更希望我们在座的老师们呢，一定要让这些年轻人呢，要学会技术来，要运用这个物质。否则我们自己当地的人很懒惰的话呢，别的国家、别的民族的人往往到这里来，他们会利用，就这是非常可惜的事情。因此，我们的物质要运用的话呢，依靠自己的这种智慧和勤劳来这个可以完成的。
The interpreter actually make a correction to the first response. An addition, rather, Kempo also said that it's quite necessary to build schools that trains people in having different techniques and in having different skills, such as carpentry and so on, to help the development of society. That's the addition the interpreter would like to add. To respond to the second question, of course, without sufficient material that supports life, it cannot maintain at least the basis of life. However, I think to obtain such material and such wealth, definitely need diligence and wisdom to differentiate and how to utilize those, because if the materials were given to the young people or to the people over here from the outside, lots of the resources could be taken advantage from this country. So it's quite important to differentiate and to choose wisely with your wisdom what to do with that kind of wealth that you receive from outside. It's important to train your youth, to train your young generation to differentiate and to use the wisdom. And it's also really important to diligently work hard and make that wealth on your own.
这个功夫呢，实际上佛教当中的部分的有一些这个佛教有很多汉传佛教、藏传佛教、南传佛教等等。但这个功夫呢，一般是在汉传佛教的支派的有一些修行人，他们的一种方法。其实这个主要的原理呢，佛教有寂静和愤怒两个方面的这种修行。那么寂静的话呢，就表面上看起来也是特别的这种温顺，佛和菩萨的像呢也是很温顺的。而愤怒的像呢，他拿着各种各样的兵器呀，就各种什么棍棒啊、刀啊，就是这些。但这些呢，也从来不会害人，只不过是非常心智野蛮的人呢，通过这种方式来，就是让他们的心就是得到平静。这是一个外在的一种相互的方法。所以，即使你外在是一个特别恐怖的形象，但是内在呢，就是让你得到一种平静的行为。所以这些道理呢，如果我们学到了佛教的寂静和愤怒的两个方面的道理的时候呢，才明白实际上内心呢都是慈悲的，都是寂静的，从来没有离开过。
In terms of Kung Fu and how it's violent, in Buddhism, we have different schools and different sects. There's Han Buddhism, there's Theravada Buddhism, and there's Tibetan Buddhism. So the Kung Fu really belongs to a very specific school of Buddhism that they practice in such tradition. Generally, there are two ways of practices in Buddhism. One is wrathful, and the other one is peaceful. Although Kung Fu may appear to be quite wrathful, where people would use knives and sticks and different weapons and look quite fearful, but it really is a form that people with lots of aggression who could practice in such a way and take this form. But during practice, the goal of such is to maintain a peaceful mind, a tamed mind. So the form may appear to be quite wrathful, but the inner spirit is still peaceful. So that's the teaching of Buddhism. If you were to learn about the different practices in Buddhism, I think you'll be able to understand. Anyhow, in both ways, wrathful or peaceful, the mind is always peaceful.
这个后面的这种佛教的这种恐怖像呢，就像你们非洲呢，很多原始的民族呢，它是非常善良的，但是在传统当中，在我们跳舞的时候呢，有各种动物的这种头像啊，还有非常恐怖的一些形象来开始给大家在众人面前表演。表演的时候，我们有时候产生恐怖啊，有时候产生欢喜心啊，有时候产生有种莫名其妙的这种念头。所以每一个人类的传统也好，宗教的历史的话呢，它的这个舞蹈跟我们的平时的人性呢，不一定是完全是相应的。为了让大家吸引大家的这种眼球，或者让大家更提高关注度，所以呢，在我们的戏剧和演示上面呢，会有一些 夸张，或者说是有一些特殊的这种方法。
Just like the dances that I saw, some of the dances that is still a tradition in different villages, the dances that comes from very ancient culture. In those dances, you see people wearing masks and have such interesting postures and different kind of costumes, and they would play as animals or monsters or whatsoever. They perform in certain ways and try to intrigue different feelings inside people. So doesn't matter if it's a culture or a religion, this is just a performance. This is a way to attract or magnetize. So it's a special method. That's how you can see this kind of kung fu as a form.
Mine is of general knowledge. We are proud to have you as a renowned monk. What are the principles on which Buddhism is founded? Thank you.
佛教的最重要的教理呢，佛陀在佛经当中有一句话，他说，诸我莫作，众善奉行，自净其意，此乃佛教。他意思就是说，我们在实践当中呢，不要干坏事，比如说杀人啊、屠盗啊、邪淫啊，以及这个说大的这种欺骗的这种狡诈的语言呐、等等，就是不要做坏事，要做善事。就善事帮助别人，心持慈善，就凡是所有的人类、所有的众生都要去奉献，就是去帮助。第三个就自净其意，就是经常不要被愤怒的心，就负面情绪、欲望、嗔怒、愚痴等等，就这些负面的情绪呢，就让自己的平静的内心就是较乱，应该保持一种非常快乐的这种心态。这就是佛教的3个特点，这就是佛教。所以可能很多人对佛教不一定是很理解的，但其实所谓的佛教呢，跟其他的宗教呢也有非常相同的地方，包括爱啊、慈悲啊这方面相同的。还有佛教自己呢，应该有内心平静的，就是这么一个，这就是我认为的佛教，也是佛陀他亲自也是定义的这样佛教。
Well, in terms of the principle of Buddhism, it is stated by the Buddha himself in the sutra. He said that do not practice or do not do any evil actions, but choose to do all the good actions to purify one's own mind. That's the teaching of the Buddha. What does that mean is do not do any evil actions, is do not do the evil actions such as killing, such as stealing, such as sexual misconduct, such as lying. Those are the evil actions or unvirtuous actions. But choose to do virtuous actions, which includes helping others and love all sentient beings. That's the virtuous action. And to purify one's own mind is to purify the greed, the anger, and the ignorance that's in your mind, to dispel all those 3 poisonous negative emotions in your mind. That is the purification. So all those 3 aspects are taught by the Buddha, and that is Buddhism that's defined by the Buddha. I think we do have different religions, but the teaching really is very similar. We talk about love and compassion. In Buddhism, we talk or on top of love and compassion, we also talk about how to keep peace in your mind. And I think that's another characteristic of Buddhism.
First of all, I'm very much interested in the way you have dressed. Had it been that it is in Malawi, I think you could dress in a suit. So my question is, how can one in Malawi enter into Buddhism, or how can one become a monk if interested? Yeah.
这样的，因为我不建议呢，就马上看到一个和尚，就看到出家人的衣服就马上出家，因为出家是一个众生当中最比较大的事情就看破了很多世间的这种事情，然后一心一意 去修行啊，一心一意去饶益众生啊。所以说，当然这个我是不建议就是尽快做和尚，但如果做出家的话呢，我想那个阿弥陀佛中心的话呢，有这个慧律法师也经常在这里。那么我们汉传佛教跟藏传佛教虽然衣服上有点不同，但实际上呢，出家的这种仪式啊，出家的方法呢，都是基本上是相同的。所以，我建议如果在马拉维要做出家的话呢，到时候在我们的慧律法师和还有其他的有几个师父在哪里就是做出家也是可以的。
Well, first of all, I don't really suggest you to become a monk right away after seeing my beautiful robe, because you have to dedicate your whole life in practicing. It's quite an important decision to make in your life. So after you become a monk, the only responsibility in your life would become to practice and to benefit all sentient beings. So it's no hasty decision at all. But after very profound considerations, if you do still want to become a monk in Malawi, I think you should contact Amitofo Center, the ACC over here. That's Master Hui Li is teaching there, and they do have a few ordained monks and nuns who are currently over there. The Tibetan tradition and Han tradition, we do have different colored robes, but the ordination is really the same. The precept is really the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, my remarks this afternoon, first of all, on behalf of the principal, I wanted to thank Professor Kempo Sodachi for the presentation he's made this afternoon. It was a very enlightening presentation, encouraging us teachers as engineers of the human spirit. If you heard, he mentioned that as teachers, we hold a huge responsibility over humanity, and it's an honor to hold such a responsibility. As teachers, we are like light and lamps, and that we must believe in our learners. We must believe in our students. In terms of teaching, if you remember well, Professor Sodachi has stressed the importance of teaching with enthusiasm, so that when we teach, we are enthusiastic, and this enthusiasm is what is also contagious in our learners. Our learners enjoy our lessons when we ourselves are enthusiastic. So that was, I thought, a good point to remind ourselves, but also that we need to always cherish a very peaceful mind and bring peace. Money, yes, is a huge need, and we can't refute that, but money is not the only thing in the world. We as teachers have a huge responsibility. So I want to sincerely thank everybody here present, and once again, thank you, Professor Sodachi.